Hello and welcome to another modelling video. This is Alan from the McConnor Man at YouTube with another model video. Building the 1/72nd 4D model StuG III, a new line by 4D that has been released sometime this or last year that I believe. A new line from the Chinese manufacturer akin to a 3D puzzle rather than a traditional injection molded model. Very similar to the quick build line by Airfix. This is a bit different as it's larger interconnecting style blocks that builds up the entire model. It is a little more realistically proportioned and detailed, plus with added rubber tracks and wheels to match the individual vehicles. At first glance, not as cheap, janky and weird as the cheaper and earlier models by 4D that would share parts and have very bizarre hull structures and wheel assemblies. Released somewhere 2020-2021 as a very new line depicting mostly large German armour from the Second World War. Quick background, 4D is from mainland China and is associated with educational model toys and teaching aids. Subjects range across historical animal biology, body parts, plus military vehicles, weapons, cars, civil equipment, trains, aircraft, ships. A whole range of various products can drastically range in quality from quite bad to fairly decent and up to other model manufacturers. They are generally the cheapest models that you can find online, especially from sites such as eBay and Alibaba. Upon discovering and purchasing this new line earlier this year, finished models and boxes depicted models were very accurate in the wheel assembly and the general proportion of the tank it's meant to detail, though I wasn't quite aware that it would be this very thick molded jigsaw puzzle. The box contained a bag with various parts free of any tree runners or sprues and numbers etched into the back. You also got two rubber tracks with a very poor flash right down the center, and the back of the box would depict very small instructions covering 5 steps. The plastic appears to be a quality ABS and does react to traditional straight up plastic cement. Due to the workmanship, quick nature and mass amount of material, the model did retail 3 times more than the previous 72nd tank lines. Opening the bag and sorting out the parts, I was immediately disorientated, not recognizing what parts go where and needing to sort them according to the number on the instructions and the rear of the piece. This was the most tedious and time-consuming process. Each part had a bit of a nub mark that needed removing with a knife and sanding in fear of gaps when snap fitting. Connecting the parts is fairly precise and so tight that a vacuum is formed and separating them is near impossible. I do fear shifting at a later date, so a small drop of superglue was added to keep it permanently together. Thickened filler primer was applied to all the seams, though I like how it's separated in panels, as if it is to sink, it would look like where the armor would naturally separate in sheet metal. The build process was not particularly fun. However, each part is unique enough that you will not connect the incorrect part to the incorrect spot. Overall, the proportion looks very good. I do like the design. Some of the detailed dimensions and thickness of parts is questionable. A little modification did occur, such as drilling out the gun barrel and applying a bit of sag to the tank treads with sprue. Once built out of the box, there is a fairly poorly coat of paint applied on top in a camouflage-like manner. Color doesn't really depict anything and definitely warrants its own paint job. Everything was applied with automotive primer utilizing a portable 0.3mm APR airbrush. Being a bit on the cartoony wargaming side of things, I've decided to apply a Girls and Panzer scheme with water slide decals I've had sitting around. A very simple two-tone for gradient effect German grey was sprayed with Tamiya and Gunz acrylic, thinned down with lacquer thinner applied at a low PSI. Being away from the home studio with limited resources, I kept the finish very simple. After a good day of drying and a fine haired paintbrush, I picked out all the details such as the rubber on the wheels, any sort of stowage box, weapons and whatnot. Again, the detail is very chunky and pretty easy to pick out. It's an absolute treat to weather as washes fall into all the nooks and crannies required to give maximum definition. The edging touched up with a weathering pencil to give that hard line drawn anime look. The tank tracks were the only element that was a bit tricky to paint. I gave that a few coats to thicken it up so you wouldn't see that nasty flash mark. The easy model Oria decal set had an odd number of the hippo and Oria logo. This worked out for this build, saving enough for a better and more historical accurate rendition of the hippo team StuG. Once dried, lightly glazed with a little floor polish, and the entire project got a sludge wash with heavily thinned Tamiya black wash to pick out all that detailed as mentioned. A few hours after that dried, a top coat of a mix of Mr. Color flat clear GX and flat base smooth as a test gave that really dead military luster that you would expect from a matted vehicle. Also brings out the Tamiya German grey, which is one of my most favorite rendition of this color when painting armor. If you're going for absolute accuracy, if you're going for historical accuracy and proportion detail that would be akin to the original profile of the vehicle, this one is a bit too quirky and weird to fill that scratch. It is very quick to build and finish, slotting a lot of these out for a simple wargaming army or just for a bit of fun, a mental build or something to paint. Would be absolutely fantastic for the kids. As a collector of inaccurate, historically old and very quirky armor kits, it's right up my alley as an interesting build to flop off my collection. I'm pretty pleased with the finish that I've achieved with this. A lot of fun was had in painting and weathering it. I'd like to take one of the other 6 more seriously. I'm very happy with this offering from 4D Models. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, until next time, stay tuned for further content. Check out the description below for all the social medias, and we'll see you next time. We will be building the other 5 from the collection, including that very massive Grizzly field gun, which I've never seen an offering before.